want to introduce our keynote speaker. We welcome Washington County Chairman Andy Duyck back to the podium for his annual State of the County address. Chair Duyck has served on the Washington County Commission since 1995. He was elected chairman in 2010 and has been instrumental on a number of issues during his tenure. Chairman is well-versed in regional issues and the communities the county serves, both as a small business owner and as a farmer. A family man, Andy has been married for more than 30 years and has 7 children. Please join me in welcoming Chairman Andy Duyck.
Wow. Good morning, everybody. You know, it takes something like that introduction to remind me how long I've been here and how many changes I've seen with the county. It's impressive, but I still can't match Commissioner Rogers. He's been around a little longer than I have. So. I am delighted to be here this morning because I get to talk about my favorite subject, the state of Washington County. As always, let me begin by thanking the staff of Westside Economic Alliance. Pam Treese, Teresa Dunham, and Mary Quinn have been putting in a lot of time to make this event successful. And that time has relieved our staff from having to put in a lot of the hours. So it's very, very much appreciated. Thank you, Pam. I really appreciate it. You did a great job. And I especially want to thank our generous hosts here at Intel for inviting us to meet on the Ronler Acres campus. It's clear that Intel plays a significant role in our economy and the prosperity of our communities. My sincere thanks to Jill Island, Carly Ryder, to your event staff and planners and professional team who've made this event possible as well. Thank you. Now, Pam has already introduced the Board of Commissioners, who presumably are here to make sure I get it right. But I'd like to call them out just as well. I'd like to personally thank Commissioner Dick Scouten, Greg Malinowski, Roy Rogers, and Bob Terry. Their service together with mine for Washington County it's awesome. You're a great team to be working with, and I appreciate the time that we've spent together. Today's State of the County address marks the 10th in a whole series of events that have happened here in Washington County. I have had the chance to enjoy and attend 7 of those events, the State of the City addresses by many of our mayors. And I've heard the mayors of the cities of Banks, Beaverton, Hillsboro, Sherwood, Tigard, Tualatin, and Wilsonville describe the state of their cities. And perhaps today I'll borrow a few of the remarks that they made as well. For example, in Sherwood, we heard Mayor Clark, who was talking about the celebration of the success of her community's Performing Arts Center. And in Beaverton, we broke ground on a new high school. And we learned about the city's plans to reclaim the former Westgate Theater site to create a destination city center in and around the Round. Mayor Lou Ogden helped us break ground on the extension of 124th Avenue between 12th and Sherwood Road to Wilsonville. And while I was in Banks, Mayor Edison told us how his city hopes to be opening its doors to the Salmonberry Trail one day so that visitors will come and explore their community and the vast, expansive, spectacular Coast Range. And in each of these cities, we learned about the plans to provide employment opportunities, promote economic development, and to generate the tax base that will power the economic engine for our communities in future generations. The success that we enjoy in Washington County depends on the collaborative efforts of those mayors and elected leaders to create an environment that promotes economic development. As chairman of Washington County, I applaud these efforts. We can all celebrate the success of these communities, and we should support their efforts and sustain those achievements. So thanks to the mayors of each of those cities and to the city councilors as well for your efforts in helping Washington County. Some of you will recall that we began the year of 2015 by literally moving the county boundary and adding a small corner of Multnomah County into Washington County for future residential development, and we lovingly refer to that as Bonnie Slope West. Then we finished the year by taking steps that may lead us to relocate the largest man-made structure in Washington County to keep pace with our growing population and to serve the needs of future generations. Whether it's large or small, growth and change are constant realities for Washington County. But growth means different things to different people, and each of us have our own impressions about whether we welcome or dread the changes and growth all around us. This graphic helps us to illustrate the rapid changes that we encounter every day. But the combined effect of these changes can be linked to a single key factor. Employers in Washington County continue to provide some of the most coveted jobs in the state, jobs that offer the highest wages, pay the best benefits, and sustain the economic health of our entire state. Great job opportunities attract a highly educated, highly skilled, and diverse workforce, and they contribute to a vibrant and complete community. In fact, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation recently named Washington County the healthiest county in the state of Oregon when they compared life expectancies and quality of life, household incomes, education levels, crime rates, and the incidence of poverty and deprivation in our state. Growth also brings significant benefits that most of us never even think about or stop to consider. Our growing population, our diversified economy, and healthy community allowed Moody's Investment Services to assign Washington County an investment-grade bond rating. That's the second highest level possible. And this designation helped us to refinance our 2006 issued bonds to save on borrowing costs, saving you and me as taxpayers about $500,000 annually, or to state it another way, about $5 million in debt service over the life of those bonds. That's pretty impressive. When I spoke to you a year ago, I explained why the top legislative priority of Washington County continues to be economic development and job creation. Clearly, we've been doing our part in Washington County. Take a look around you. We are in the heart of the most advanced research and production center in the world, and for the semiconductor industry. Since coming to Washington County in 1974, Intel has invested more than $30 billion in our local economy. Again, thank you. But they've grown to become the largest for-profit employer in the state of Oregon, with, as you heard earlier, 19,500 employees, and those are some of the best and brightest people in the world. And they're now investing their time and their lives right here in Washington County. Intel is also the largest single property taxpayer in Washington County by a factor of 3. So on behalf of the Board of Commissioners and the citizens of Washington County, I'll say it loud and I'll say it proud. Thank you, Intel. To enable the company to continue this phenomenal growth and investment in Washington County and the city of Hillsboro have provided key incentives under the State Strategic Investment Program, the SIP. Under the terms of our latest SIP agreement, which was completed about 18 months ago now, we hope that Intel will continue to invest as much as $100 billion over the next 30 years, while providing the next generation of high-tech workers with some of the most coveted jobs found anywhere. That's important to keep those jobs here. In return, local governments have agreed to limit property tax obligations that Intel would otherwise incur on the very expensive equipment that they use in the manufacturing process. Now, I stress equipment because it's important to know that Intel pays full value on the land and buildings, just as you and I do. To encourage local governments to work with major employers that are making these mega investments in our state, Oregon lawmakers agreed to share on a 50-50 split the personal income tax revenue that is produced by the employees of the companies that have these SIP agreements. We call this gain share, and you probably heard me talk about it last year and maybe even the year before, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit because there's been some changes. Wherever there are large amounts of money, there's always folks that have different ideas about how they should spend it. And it didn't go unnoticed by the state legislators in Salem. Each of the SIP agreements that Washington County has negotiated with Intel and Genentech have exceeded expectations, creating more jobs and paying higher wages than anyone could have expected. In an income tax dependent state like ours, that's a welcome problem to have. So, as I said, when individuals wanted to look at how we spent that money, Washington County's gain share allocation from the state became a tempting target for lawmakers in Salem, and the program was due to expire anyway at the end of 2018, unless strategic changes were made. Now, I talked about this extensively last year, but after months of political maneuvering and negotiations, I'm here to report that we struck a compromise with the state, and I'm proud and pleased with it. Washington County will receive a maximum of $16 million annually in gain share revenue from the state. But these payments are now fixed in the state's biennial budget, and they're secured for another 10 years, giving the assurances that Washington County needs to make it possible to plan for future revenue and spending commitments all the way to the year 2025. The Board of Commissioners has allocated gain share funds to a variety of projects, including the construction of a new courtroom in our public safety building, to make much needed repairs and seismic upgrades on the public services building and the law enforcement center, to provide safe routes to schools, and to provide startup funding for a voluntary wood stove change-out program for homeowners that we hope will improve air quality here in Washington County and in Tualatin Valley as a whole. Another notable achievement during the past year, let me switch gears just a little bit here. Another notable achievement of the past year has been the passage of both the library services levy and the public safety levies. While I believe that these services are critical to the well-being of our community, our democratic system puts the final say in the hearts and the hands of the voters. Last November's outcome confirmed that the county's role in providing library and public safety services is as important to taxpayers as it is to those of us who are providing those services. By their overwhelming support, the public can now take full advantage of expanded library services here in Aloha, and Bethany, Cornelius, Hillsboro, and not to mention the stability of keeping, and in some cases expanding, operating hours, book purchases, and electronic materials countywide. So here again, I want to acknowledge the important role that our city partners play in our cooperative library system, and their outstanding help with voter outreach and over the last several months. It really was a remarkable effort. So I want to thank each of you who worked so hard to support the campaign, and those of you who voted overwhelmingly to support our levy here. With respect to the public safety levy, my hat is off to Sheriff Pat Garrett, to District Attorney Bob Herman, Community Corrections Director Steve Berger, and to Juvenile Director Lynn Schroeder, and also for the services that the men and women in their departments provide every day for our community. Because of the public safety levy, our county has both the stability and the flexibility to serve the public as it grows. The levy also supports a network of emergency shelters that a growing number of families and individuals have needed to use more than ever in recent months. Now let's take a few minutes to talk about some of the challenges that we see ahead. We are already working with our 911 dispatch center and our community of law enforcement, fire and rescue, ambulance providers, and other first responders to prepare our emergency communication system and facilities in the event of an earthquake or other major disaster. Just as many of you have upgraded your personal cell phones over the last several decades, so too, our emergency communication system also needs upgrading. So in May, Washington County voters will be asked to consider funding a measure to replace and upgrade the emergency communication system. With voter approval, Washington County would issue up to $77 million in bonds to help pay for the emergency and 911 equipment, including the essential items that we've listed here. The project cost, which will benefit from the lower bond interest rates and the expanded tax base that I described earlier, would be expected to cost less than 8 cents per thousand of assessed value, a rate that would be levied over the next 20 years. That would cost the typical homeowner somewhere in the neighborhood of about $20 starting this next year. In the weeks ahead, you'll learn more from our first responders about the bond measure and the role that this communication system plays in our emergency response network. But this morning, I would like to take this opportunity to recognize and to thank the men and women who rely on this communication system and put their lives on the line every day in our community. Would Sheriff Pat Garrett and Chief Mike Duyck please stand up? And also, all of the men and women who are in uniform today who are serving in the role of emergency response. On behalf of a grateful community, we really do appreciate your dedicated service. One emergency that we hope that we will never have to face is not having a safe and adequate supply of water. When I spoke to you a year ago about the future of our water supplies from Hag Lake, I explained why this has been our top federal priority since I became chairman back in 2010. Even so, I have to confess that efforts to secure this vital facility seem to be advancing at a glacial pace. I've been complaining about that recently, but this year I'm pleased to report that we have some progress. The political climate in Washington, D.C. has been warming considerably, and we're now able to report some significant movement with this ambitious project. Some of you may be surprised to learn that out of 373 dams and levees that are owned by the Bureau of Reclamation in 17 western states, Scoggins Dam and the lake behind it, Hag Lake, are at the top of the list for seismic vulnerability. But as you are about to hear, some very good things are being done to reduce the risk and to get us off that list. So we have a very special video greeting this morning from Oregon's senior senator in our nation's capital. Good morning, Senator.
Thank you, Chairman Duyck, commissioners, and everybody from Washington County who's attending this year's State of the County event. It's always my honor to work with the county, Clean Water Services, and all of Washington County's cities as part of a great regional partnership. At the end of 2015, the Congress passed a law that ensured that Scoggins Dam is both a safe facility and capable of meeting future water needs. This is a clear testament to the strength of that partnership. Our recent success with Scoggins Dam has shown us what is possible. I'm confident that there will be future successes as Congress works to maintain and enhance our roads, bridges, transit, and utilities. Enjoy the breakfast, and again, a big thank you to Washington County.
Back in the 1960s, the leadership of the city of Hillsboro and Washington County were envisioning a project that would provide a reliable water source over the next 50 years. That project is the Hag Lake and Scoggins Dam project.
Irrigated agriculture is the mainstay of the ag economy in this area. The irrigation district has 17,000 acres that they can irrigate from the source at Hag Lake, and that meant a lot to the whole basin.
Maintaining this water resource is critical to the continued growth of our county and certainly of our employment in the region. It is important that we be able to provide safe, clean drinking water for all of our local communities.
The Scoggins Dam is an earthen dam. It's one of the most seismically challenged dams on the West Coast for the Bureau of Reclamations. So this is a priority not only for clean water services, but for the Portland metropolitan region.
We have to start working today to secure our water supply against the event of a major earthquake. Doing nothing is not an option. We know that earthquake is going to happen. We just don't know when. And we've been very successful this year in getting the legislation that we needed to help to develop new water resources and at the same time to improve the safety of the current dam that we have.
So we need more water for the Tualatin River and its tributaries to protect public health and water quality and for critical fish habitat. We're starting to move into really focusing on what the alternatives are to do the seismic modifications and the increased water supply. The current dam is 2,700 feet across. To make the modifications there may be more expensive than they're looking at a downstream option that's only 1,100 feet across. So we could be not only looking at a 50-year supply, but potentially a 100-year supply as part of that.
There's always going to be a need for more water in the basin. For the economy in this area, we're all going to need it.
I really have to commend our legislative delegation, Senators Wyden, Merkley, and Congresswoman Bonamici. They have all visited the facility at Hag Lake. They know what the issues are, and they've taken this seriously. The citizenry expects safe water. They expect secure water. Those are the things that we need to focus on. That's why we have to plan out into the future, to make sure we have that safe, reliable source of water for every citizen who wants to turn on that tap. We have to do some serious planning. Thank you. As I explained in the video, Congresswoman Bonamici has been extremely helpful in protecting Scoggins Dam and expanding our water supply. So I'm very pleased to have Suzanne here with us this morning. I want to thank her once again for her bipartisan support in addressing the important challenge on behalf of Washington County and DC. Thank you. Another top priority for anyone living and working in Washington County is transportation, and all about how we choose to get around. Successful transportation projects depend on many factors, but especially partnerships. Strong partnerships between Washington County and our cities, our neighboring jurisdictions, agencies, businesses, and developers are responsible for many of the transportation improvement projects that we have underway. These projects proactively address growth, they improve safety, they support our economy, and sustain our quality of life. Funding partnerships are a critical part of our transportation roadmap. Over the past 30 years, the Major Streets Transportation Improvement Program, MSTIP, or MSTIP, has funded more than 130 projects with more than $730 million for transportation improvements throughout Washington County. In May, we'll be asking the business community, our community partners, and the residents of Washington County to help us to prioritize the next round of MSTIP funding that begins in 2019. Last summer, the board unanimously approved the MSTIP Bond Cost Sharing Program, which is our most innovative transportation funding partnership to date. Here again, we will be working in partnership with Beaverton, Hillsboro, and Tigard to make road improvements to existing roads near 4 high-growth residential areas that are slated for development over the next 10 years. The county will issue bonds to fund its share of the costs, and it will use the incremental growth in the MSTIP revenue to pay them back. This allows us to make those improvements proactively before deficient roadways become unsafe for the users. We're also partnering with cities, school districts, ODOT, and others to improve safety for pedestrians and cyclists. Examples include our Safe Routes to School program, the School Access Improvement Study, and the Urban Road Maintenance District Safety Improvements. Many of these projects are being paid for with the gain share funding that I mentioned earlier in my talk. And on top of all this, we have a $10.1 million federal grant that allows us to work with ODOT to improve safety and traffic management by using smart traffic signals and driver information signs that adapt in real time to conditions on the road. But we can't just look at today's travel needs. We have to anticipate our transportation needs in the future. And for that, we are conducting the Washington County Transportation Future Study. Funded by the state, the Future Study will look at different transportation options and evaluate them against cost, effectiveness, and quality of life considerations. The key to addressing these challenges is funding, which continues to lag behind the need for transportation improvements and road maintenance. Gas tax revenues have been on the decline as hybrid and electric cars gain in popularity. The federal FAST Act promised as a 5-year solution, but the long-term future for transportation from the federal government remains uncertain. So we need our state legislators to address transportation funding here in Oregon. We will be advocating for a significant transportation bill in 2017. We don't want to delay because the likelihood of falling behind in our obligations to our citizens is severe. And we will continue to work with our partners to help keep Washington County moving. Our roads and bridges need ongoing care as well, and attention to prevent more serious problems down the road. We also need to take a preventative approach with other county services. For example, consider the mental health needs and the emotional well-being of our county. The reality of mental illness can be a very lonely and frightening experience for individuals and families to have to face. Resources are available, and we're hopeful that a new mental health urgent care center will make these services available to the people who need them. Please give your attention to Commissioner Roy Rogers as he explains what's being done in this area.
In recent years, the county's response to the needs of those struggling with mental illness and emotional crisis has evolved considerably. We've made important strides with our mental health crisis team and other strategies to respond quickly to those who need help. With a focus on early intervention and coordination of care, this approach is having positive results and is keeping mentally ill people out of our jail and better supported in the community. But still, there are gaps in the system of care.
For those who are in trauma or have some warning signs that crisis is imminent, there are only a few options to receive timely interventions. Often these individuals call 911 or go to a hospital for help. People experiencing mental health symptoms may come into contact with law enforcement due to being disruptive in the community. Unfortunately, this can lead to those individuals being arrested and taken to jail, but what they really need is help. In the fall of 2014, the Washington County Mental Health Program began working with our community partners to assess the system and identify the gaps in the mental health support network. That work led us to focus on the creation of a specialized mental health assessment and triage center. Based on an urgent care walk-in model, it will help people who are in crisis avoid going to the hospital or to jail. During the planning phases of this project, we've taken the approach of actively engaging our stakeholders, including mental health providers, hospitals, emergency and first responders, schools, and consumers of mental health services, as well as their family members. We are especially focused on designing the program and the facility in a way that avoids adding trauma to those who are seeking help and provides a space that is welcoming, respectful, and safe. The Mental Health Urgent Care Center will be a place where people can go, in crisis or not, just like a physical urgent care, where they can receive crisis counseling, information and referral, treatment connection, and other types of supportive care, including the active involvement of peers, which can be helpful in the healing process.
Recovery is a very personal journey. Everyone defines recovery in a different way. We've all had different experiences in our lives. So as a peer, we share those experiences. We talk about what it means to them and what it means to me, and I might share some of my experiences, but the ultimate goal is to help a person recognize they're not alone. and learn together. I learn as much from my peers as maybe they'll learn from me what my coping strategies in recovery have been. And it's not just alcohol, it's also the mental health. When you put the two of those together, sometimes it's a battlefield of the mind. And it's very difficult without knowing that there's other people available or out there. It's easy to get lost in the system. Right now in Washington County, a lot of my peers, the only way that they've made it into the system is either through law enforcement contact or through having to go to the hospital or the emergency room. Having the urgent care clinic available gives somebody a softer way into the mental health arena. You've got people who are going to sit and listen, who are going to guide them through without having contact with the sheriff's department or the police department, or having to go to the ED. Both of those are very traumatizing in a lot of different ways. So having a safe, warm handoff, so to speak, where people from law enforcement can bring an individual who may be struggling and know that this is a safe place to be dropped off at.
We are on track to achieve our goal to open in 2017 and have begun actively searching for a facility that meets our location and program needs, such as close proximity to public transportation. Reflecting back over many years when there were very few resources to help those suffering with mental illness, we now have a great opportunity to support members of the community who are in great need and help them find a path to healing.
Thank you, Roy. The collaborative work being done around this area of mental health and the Mental Health Urgent Care Center is another example of our approach here in Washington County. Here we have true partnerships that extend beyond the county organization, beyond even the limited resources for mental health services provided through federal and state funding. As we've just seen, our work includes law enforcement, nonprofits, healthcare and medical providers, and many others. Those who know us well will recognize this approach not as lip service, but as the strategic direction and the mode of operation that we use here in Washington County and that we've used for decades. Simply put, we can do more together than we can do if we're flying alone. Another great example of the collaborative approach is emerging from the work of our Vision Action Network. The Vision Action Network is a nonprofit organization that the county helped to create in 2001. VAN's purpose is to provide our community with a collaborative environment from which to address some of our most pressing needs. Working together with leadership from Community Action, whose efforts to address poverty in Washington County are widely known and respected, VAN has helped to bring together a coalition of public, private, and nonprofit organizations called Washington County Thrives. Inspired by Community Action's statewide initiative, Oregon Thrives, our local coalition is focused on 3 proven strategies for improving the economic vitality and well-being of our growing community. Our hope is to do more together to address these community priorities than any one of us could have done on our own. While we're proud of our economic success in Washington County, we're reminded every day that more than 64,000 of our neighbors are currently living below the federal poverty standard, even though 1/3 of these people have some level of employment. Through Thrives, we've been able to identify workforce strategies and programs that eliminate barriers and teach people new skills to help them compete in these high-demand living wage jobs that we have in Washington County. We're glad to have Work Systems, Inc. as a Thrives partner and the #1 funding source for workforce training programs in our county. Among those living below the federal poverty level in the county, 21,000, or 1 out of 3, are children. About 7,000 of these children are eligible for Head Start and Early Head Start, 2 federally funded preschool programs that have proven highly effective. But unfortunately, Due to resource constraints, only 1 in 5 children is currently receiving those benefits. Washington County Thrives is highlighting comprehensive strategies such as Head Start that combine education, nutrition, parental engagement, along with innovative partnerships that offer support services for early learning. These investments in preschools and other children's education programs can have a significant impact over the lifetime of these kids in our communities. The last of the 3 Thrives priorities concerns the challenging provision of affordable housing. As our population continues to grow, this is becoming more and more difficult. I'd like to share a final video with you to highlight this growing challenge in our community. So I've asked Commissioner Dick Scouten and our dedicated housing staff to tell us more about affordable housing and what's being done in Washington County to address it.
People from across the country and really from around the world are attracted to our communities, to the amenities we have here, the relatively low cost of living still, our protected farm, forest lands, and great job opportunities, and well, the list goes on and on. But what makes this area attractive is also has an effect on the demand, supply, and price of housing. For property owners and investors who are here, our current housing and rental market could be categorized as a good thing. But for those with low and fixed income, the access to affordable housing is becoming increasingly more challenging.
Although the need for affordable housing in Washington County has greatly exceeded supply for some time, the recession of 2008-2009 accelerated this shortfall. The lack of supply and significantly increased demand since then has resulted in higher rents, which many households cannot afford. The Portland metro area is in the midst of the most aggressive multifamily housing market that area real estate professionals have ever seen. With 1 in 6 Oregonians living in poverty, it's becoming harder for those who've been displaced by rent increases to find another affordable place to live. Over the past year, this has led to an increase in homelessness in the county and an urgent need for essential services. Many people who qualify for federal housing assistance, like seniors, veterans, those with disabilities, have been priced out of the market and have nowhere to turn, while earlier strides in reducing homelessness have eroded.
On a regular basis, I meet with people experiencing housing instability and homelessness. From the youngest in our community to our most valued elderly citizens, homelessness is a stark reality they never imagined. Their crisis is our crisis, for this can happen to any one of us. Like the employer concerned for the safety and well-being of a female employee that is living in her car. The employee could not afford her rent increase, and her car provides transportation to work. She chose to live in her car and keep her job. Or the 82-year-old man who became homeless and lives in his car. He could no longer afford the rent increases on his small pension and Social Security. He is proud of his lifelong accomplishments in working hard, paying taxes, and never having to rely on public assistance. His only regret? He outlived his financial resources. As our community moves forward in developing affordable housing and economic opportunities, these are just 2 of the many households who need our help.
Amid these challenges, some progress was made this year with the groundbreaking at Sunset View Apartments, a partnership between for-profit Pedcore Investments and the Housing Authority, featuring 236 affordable units, and the newly constructed Barcelona Apartments by Community Partners for Affordable Housing, with its 47 affordable units in Beaverton's historic Old Town. Willamette West Habitat for Humanity has also contributed to the affordable housing stock, as Allen Estates is currently under construction and on track to complete 24 new homes over the next several months. Another noteworthy project is the Orchards at Aranco by Reach Community Development. With 2 additional phases to come, Phase 1 is complete, features 57 affordable units, and is the largest multifamily building in the United States built to passive house energy standards. Washington County will continue to pursue opportunities to replicate these successful partnerships in other locations across the county, and will continue to work with our community partners and legislators to bring additional state and federal dollars to Washington County to further promote these efforts.
This is a big challenge, but we're up for it. We will work to eliminate regulatory barriers and create incentives for diverse market rate and affordable housing. Working in concert with our for-profit and nonprofit partners, we will explore a wide variety of housing types to address the unique need of our veterans, seniors, and families, to include everything from tiny house home ownership, duplexes, triplexes, cottage clusters, accessory units, to the more traditional multifamily rental properties. Fact is, Washington County will continue to grow for the foreseeable future, and it's our responsibility to make sure that all of our residents, including our children and grandchildren, have a safe and affordable place to live.
As you've just seen, we do have some challenges in Washington County, but there are several exciting projects underway, and there are many more being planned currently as we speak. With dedicated people that are eager to make things happen, we can address these problems. In closing, we have a lot to celebrate in Washington County, and I've touched on some of the high points here today. We've accomplished a lot in the past year, but we're well positioned to take on the challenges of the next year. I'm proud to serve as Washington County Chair for these past 5 years, and it's been a remarkable ride, but I can report with confidence that the state of Washington County has never been stronger. Our communities are strong. Our economy is strong. Our county tax base is strong. And our workforce is even stronger. And our future is bright. So thanks to each one of you for coming this morning, and thanks for everything that you do to make this county a great place to live and work and thrive. Thank you.